Good morning, Pickswise Nation. It is Saturday, and we got a lot of college basketball, a little NBA tonight to get to. Jared, last night I'm sitting up and I'm watching the NHL All-Star festivities. A lot of fun,
Mm.
by the way, but I miss hockey. I miss hockey.
It's only been
Um,
going for like 3 days.
I
It'll
know,
be back.
but there's something about having a basketball game because I mean, full disclosure, like I'm not watching like full hockey games yet. But if I'm scoreboard watching and I see like something's close, I'll click on the ESPN Plus app and
Yeah. ESPN Plus makes it easier.
yeah, I'll click on and I'll watch like a third period or something.
Yeah.
But I miss I felt like I needed something on my second screen late night last night because I had the Hornets game on early.
That
Terrible
game's
Terrible with the LaMelo Ball. Hornets win. Sorry about that one
yeah.
last night. I mean, terrible beat for if you had Hornets money line
That was a
last
tough
night.
game. That was a tough game.
Um,
The Cavs have this little they have these inklings about
well,
them sometimes.
Jared Allen's a dog. Like that's what
Yeah,
that
he
is.
really
Like
is.
Jared Allen. Like I thought. Like my handicap yesterday. I don't know if you watched the show. Was LaMelo Ball revenge game? Like 20 points.
Yeah.
He's been playing well. 20 points. Hornets win at home. Like that's what they do. But I didn't factor in Jared Allen also snubbed, and he's just a dog already. So Jared Allen, I mean, I think he had the first 9 points in the game. I think he had 9 and 9 in the first
Wow.
quarter, like in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter, like crazy. But you had also a pretty rough night in the NBA prop market last night.
Yeah, Kyrie. So I'm looking at Kyrie's situation now in Brooklyn. And by the way, the Hornets nest that is happening with the Nets and now the Sixers, perhaps with this possible trade between Harden, and we'll see what happens with Ben Simmons. I don't know if he'll be involved. Maybe he will. I think it's.
I mean, he's got to be. If they're going to get Harden, it's got to be.
Has to be involved. You have to. But also, there's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there. But anyways. If Harden continues to sit, and I did hear last night that he was in the building, but not on the bench with the team. Take that for whatever, with a grain of salt, whatever you want. But I think when you look at who the Nets are as a team without James Harden, from what I remember last year, and again, it was a loose memory, and also from earlier this year when Harden did sit in the one game, Kyrie did kind of take over those point guard duties a little bit, and he took that role of being the disher and not just the swisher. And he had 5 assists in the first half last night. Obviously, the blowout killed the 6.5 assist prop to the over. But going forward, if they keep that number at 6.5, that will be a prop that we continue, an angle that we continue to exploit if Harden continues to sit.
Oh man, he had 5 at halftime, and
he finished with 6, and he didn't play the entire fourth quarter.
That's almost as bad.
It was a tough beat.
I personally played Embiid, but I got to the window late, and it was 11.5 when I got to it. And I played it because I was still feeling good. He had 9 in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter, right? He didn't get his 10th rebound until the fourth quarter. And then I was just sitting there just like, oh my gosh, like what is going on here? So that was an unnecessary sweat as well. All right, let's get to today because we're trying to avoid some sweats. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel and let us know what you're thinking in the comments, any games you want to talk about. I'm checking the chat periodically. And of course, make sure you download the Pickswise app as well, available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play. Today, we are going to talk some NBA, then really take a deep dive into, I think it's a great college basketball slate today. Then Jared's going to give out some kick picks, and we're going to finish things off with our plays of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And let's start with the NBA morning radar. And Jared, we are looking at these games right now. But before we get to that, I got a question for you.
What you got?
What are your thoughts on we're talking about Sixers news. It's actually funny because as soon as I saw the Shams tweet, I was texting a friend, like, I got to get to Maryland Live and put in a Sixers future. Like I gotta just hop on that before the number changes. What are your thoughts on hitting the futures market before the trade deadline?
Definitely a good idea. Couple of interesting things about where the futures market stands right now. The Nets are massively overvalued in the East, especially.
Yeah.
That's where my initial brain goes when I'm thinking about the futures market. So obviously the Bucks are pretty high. I've got the
Sixers to win the
East.
East was what I would have put a ticket on, to be fair. I
100%.
didn't get there yet, but that would have been my ticket.
And I think there's other teams that are worthy of your attention too. I mean, I think the Bulls and the Celtics right there, 13-1, 27-1. I know they've both, all of those teams that are past the Heat, really. Sixers, there's warts. You don't know what's going to happen with the Simmons situation. A lot of unknowns. Bulls, obviously injuries. Celtics, they played bad. But if you're looking for value in the futures market, when you have a team like the Brooklyn Nets that are taking up so much equity at the top of the market at plus 180, there are other spots that even if they don't win, if you just get them into the Eastern Conference Finals, there's a chance for you to make significant hedge opportunity, at least at the minimum, if not win it outright. So obviously the Bucks being the defending champs would be the first place you go, but they're, I think, overpriced a little bit too, considering they've looked a little wobbly at times this year. I think the Heat at plus 480 would be the first place I would look, then the Sixers, then probably the Celtics. And I think the Bulls' injury concerns in their youth maybe would push me away from Chicago. I think Chicago's 1 year away. But Miami, Philly, Boston. I mean,
what about the Cavs?
Right?
Do the Cavs interest you at all at 27-1 with their top 5 defense? I mean, Darius Garland, Jared Allen. I mean, they're quietly playing really well. I think they're going to be
dogs in most of their series. That's I think you bet them on the series price, and you probably can say the same thing about Boston too. They're such a big long shot. You could just bet them to win the series and then roll it over and then roll it over, kind of like people did with the Bengals money line over the last few weeks. You know, them being underdogs, but no, I haven't watched Cleveland enough though to really make that assumption. I'll really start watching the NBA. I don't really watch the NBA. I just listen at scores and looking at numbers and stuff. I'll start watching a lot more now the football season's over. But yeah, they're in the mix. I think anyone besides Brooklyn is a bet you can make a case for, because Brooklyn's price is just absurd right now.
I need to lock in more with the NBA because this is a complete oversight by me for being in Atlanta for 4 years. How could I miss the Brandon Goodwin game? Like, this is a guy, Brandon Goodwin, he's from the Atlanta area, was with the Hawks, you know. Yeah. He is the ultimate, like, prove-it guy. He was a two-way player for them, but when he gets his opportunity, he shows out. And then we saw last night, you know, with him knocking down those threes, and you're like, who is this Brandon Goodwin guy? I mean, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, they picked him up off the street. This is like his chance with Garland out. How could I not have hammered every Brandon Goodwin prop last night? So I need to pay more attention to where my guys are and what their situations are. But then we looked at tonight. What are you on for tonight's games? Do you have any props that you're like? Because I don't think we make picks at 10 a.m. in the NBA. We don't do that.
Very, very hard. I do like the Crowder rebounds prop. So again, the strategy, I've talked about it a little bit over the last week or so. Now that we're kind of transitioning into more of a basketball mode away from football, the way that I like to get acclimated to the markets is I do like to bet props. And I do think that the plus money props, I kind of cut myself off with plus money props only, because I do view the NBA props because of the volume of the game and how many possessions there are and how many, you know, either rebounds or points or whatever prop you're betting, you need to get over the hump. It's a coin flip, and especially the hustle stats like rebounds. The ball bounces and it goes this way, and this guy gets a rebound. It goes this way, the other guy gets a rebound. It's really hard to handicap it, but the plus money vibe does give you the, hey, I'm on the right side of the coin flip. And then you try to find the angles that are intriguing. To me, it's this Wizards team that over the last 5 games has allowed the most rebounds in the NBA. Jay Crowder, not a, you know, starter in the rotation. He might be a starter, but he's not one of those guys that like Booker or Paul that gets 30, 35, 40 minutes a night. He's usually in the low 30s, high 20s. But the number's low, 4.5. He's averaging 4.9 this season and 6 in the month of January. So he's been trending to the over of late. And again, this Wizards team gives up a ton of rebounds. I think based off the early line move, 7.5 to 9, the Suns are going to win this game. And if they are ahead late, maybe you'll see fewer minutes for Paul and Booker, maybe some more minutes for Jay Crowder, the veteran, getting him some time on the floor. So 4.5 rebounds, relatively low number for a guy that likes to mix it up. And certainly is in the middle of the scrum. He's a guy that likes to get his nose dirty, Jay Crowder. So absolutely. 4.5 rebounds plus 114 to the over, decent plus money price there.
Absolutely. I like that. And I mean, to be fair, in their last game against the Hawks, I don't want to say they were splitting his minutes with Aiton, but it seems like they're trying to slowly reacclimate Aiton back
Yeah, good point.
into the game. So Crowder could be seeing some more minutes there. But I'm actually staying in the same game. I'm going with my guy, Mikal Bridges. Over 14 and a half points. That number just seems really low to me because as I watched that Hawks game, Bridges seemed like a guy that, the Suns had trusted in that spot, as all the attention's being paid to Chris Paul and Booker, rightfully so. Bridges is a guy that can hit his shots. He's going to be out there. He's played 40 plus minutes in each of the past 5 games. And he's averaging 23 points over the last 4 games. So he's really kind of hit his stride. So 14 and a half seems like a pretty low number for me against the
He had
Wizards.
some 20s recently.
Yeah, against the Wizards team that doesn't play great defense.
That's not a bad little same game parlay. Maybe throw in Suns money line.
There, you know what? No. Stay away. I'm gonna stay away from Suns money line because that's where I've been getting burned in like those spots. Those spots where you're just like, oh, this team's gonna win. Because the Wizards, who did they beat the other day? They beat somebody that they weren't. Oh my gosh, hold on. Now I need to look this up.
So Crowder rebounds and Bridges points. If you just parlayed that, it's almost 3-1.
I really like
Plus
that.
276.
Oh, they beat the Sixers without Embiid. That was
that's right.
Because that would have been like, oh,
Wizards can be a little jumpy sometimes.
Exactly. So I'm not staying away from that for now. But I like 3-1. I might combine those.
That's not a bad price there. Listen, the same game parlays, you're obviously adding a lot of risk. If you bet both of our props, and you go 1-1, you can't finish any worse than even money. The plus money props, I challenge all of the Pickswise Nation cappers out there. Try to find one plus money NBA prop every night. It is. First of all, I think
is that going to be our thing? Should that be our thing? Let's make that our thing. I'll do that. I'm with that.
Plus one. All you have to do is find one. Now you can bet other props. Obviously, you don't have to bet just one prop.
Yeah, just find a plus money prop.
I think that's like it's like digging for gold because you don't have to go 500. And you know how hard it is. You've been doing this now for 4 months. Before that, you've been betting for a while. It ain't easy to win every night. It ain't easy.
You're not winning every night. I'll tell you that.
You cut down the amount of times you have to win in order to stay profitable. I think the props market is so fluky that over the long haul of we're going to be doing this now for the last 4 months of the season, basically every night, you will win. I think, or you'll at least stay close to a winning margin and you won't lose your shirt laying 50, 60 cents on some of these props. Some of these props, you can make a case for, hey, I'm going to lay minus 150 on a 3-point prop because this guy's hit it in like 9 straight times. But then there's the one night where he goes 1 for 10 from 3. And it's just, I think that knocks you down so much to where now you have to win 2 to get back over water. So again, it's a personal strategy. I don't knock anyone else's strategy, but I do think plus money props in the NBA is the way to go.
All right.
Just my opinion.
Well, let's switch gears and get into some of these college basketball games.
Big day.
Let's start in the Big East. UConn at Villanova. We got a ranked matchup there. Both teams looking to bounce back after losses. UConn, obviously, tough loss to Creighton. They were favored by 10 and a half points in that game and then lost outright. Tough. And then Villanova looking to bounce back after losing to a scrappy Marquette team, one of my favorite teams as we head into the month of March. But both teams strong on the defensive end. UConn ranks 12th in defensive efficiency, Villanova 54th. For me, the difference in this one is going to be Villanova's 3-point shooting. They rely a lot on the 3. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the Big East. And that's an area that UConn struggles to defend. They rank 207th in opponent 3-point percentage. So I'm leaning on laying the points with Villanova right now. But big injury news here. Villanova's second leading scorer, Justin Moore, rolled his ankle earlier this week, questionable for the game. So if Moore can go, I'm fine laying the points. If Moore does not go, I'm passing on the game.
I think that's why this line's moved in favor of UConn overnight. 6.5 to now 5. I'm seeing 4.5s in the market at this time, 10:15 Eastern, games at noon. So we're getting pretty close here, hour 45 out. We'll probably get news on more probably within the next 30 minutes to 45, probably right around 11:15 Eastern is probably when we'll hear about more. This is a tough spot, I think, for UConn. I really do, with Nova coming off the loss. They don't lose games in the Big East often. They've only lost 2 of them all year. And they're both, 3. They lost their opening game in the Big East back in December, which at this point, they're probably like a different team. And then they lost 2 games to Marquette in a 2-week stretch. And what have we talked about with Marquette? They have a different element to them that I don't know if UConn has. And I kind of like Nova a little bit here if we're getting it at 4.5 under that 2 possession threshold. But it's a no play for me officially. But if I had to pick it, I probably would lean Nova at home. I probably would. I'm
just waiting on that more news. If that comes
out,
out,
that's big. And you might get another half a point or a point on the line because of that. He is their best player. Gillespie and Samuels, I think, are big, but I think Moore's their most athletic and their most dynamic player offensively, especially.
Yeah.
And he's got a tremendous motor. And that's a guy they'll miss on both ends, no doubt.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the SEC now. 2 teams having polar opposite seasons. Got number 1 Auburn at Georgia. Auburn laying 16.5 points. Georgia 1-8 in SEC play, bottom of the SEC standings. Auburn beat Georgia by 23 a couple of weeks ago. Do you have a feel for this game? Are you playing a side in this one?
So my initial lean was no play, but the more I'm seeing this action come in on Georgia, the more I'm a little bit inclined to play Auburn. So this line is down to now 16. It was at 17.5. Do I love laying that many points on the road with Auburn? No, of course not. I'm not going to bet this game, but for the sake of argument, it's probably not going to be the most raucous environment in Athens at noon on a Saturday for Georgia basketball, right? Like, I don't get the vibe that they have the same enthusiasm about their 6-16 Bulldogs that I think Auburn will probably have a lot of fans in the stands in this game. They're the number 1 team in the country. So I don't know if it's going to be that home environment that Georgia's hoping for. Maybe it will be. I don't know that much.
I can tell you as someone who's been, it won't be.
It won't be, right? So this will be, I don't want to say a neutral site game, but it'll feel more like a neutral site game than it will like a raucous Georgia home game defending their honor against the number 1 team in the country. And I think when Auburn gets rolling, I mean, they're the best team on both ends of the floor, I think, in the nation. I mean, they have the best 2 players on both they have 2 of the best 2-way players in the country. And I think they've got the best defensive player in the country as well. So I can't fade Auburn. It's either you bet Auburn or you don't bet the game, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's the only thing that's, I think it's Auburn or pass for me, and I'm passing.
Yeah. There's better spots on the board than this.
Yeah, but like, just look at it, and when they beat them by 23 a couple weeks ago, the key to that game was turnovers, right? Georgia had 18 turnovers. They ranked 310th in turnovers, and
Georgia's bad.
One thing Auburn's good at, it's turning teams over. So it's just like, this is just Georgia's not a good matchup for Georgia at all. Not a good matchup for Georgia, but. Not a spot that I'm willing to lay 16 points in either, because I mean, could I see this also being a game where Auburn just doesn't get up? This, college basketball, they just don't get up for this game, and then
they got Arkansas on Tuesday on the road. So yes,
that they win by 12. Yeah, I can see this. I can see them winning by 12 in this game, and then guess what?
This is a sandwich game for sure, which is probably why the sharp money has come in on Georgia and why that line has gone from 17.5 now down to 16. But that doesn't mean.
That doesn't mean you have to take the 16 points and just watch that. No.
Well, you're going to be sweating from the opening tip if you bet Georgia in this game. Now, don't get me wrong. You can make worse cases for catching 16 points in a college basketball major conference
at home.
But I don't want to.
I can't do it. I can't do it with that team. I've watched Georgia a couple times this year. I can't do it.
There'll be times to step in front of Auburn. This is a good situational spot to step in front of them. But then you have to think about, all right, the game just tipped off and Georgia can't defend a lick and Auburn's running up and down the floor like wild men. I'm scared the whole game in that situation. Maybe Georgia makes a ton of threes, keeps it close, but I'm passing there.
Yeah. Let's move on to another ranked matchup here. We got Iowa State catching 8 points last I checked at Texas today. The total's 122.5. Really low total there.
Really low.
Iowa State going for the season sweep against Texas. So, both teams are going to be up for this game. Do you have a pick for this one? I have a play for this game.
Yeah, I think if I look at this game at its core, I look at Iowa State's defense, and I'm curious if they can travel because they just kind of got knocked around a little bit by Kansas. This is a team that doesn't give up a ton of points, but in their last few games, they had a beat down. I don't want to say beat down, but they got beat by 9, at home against Kansas, and then prior to that, they had an overtime game against Oklahoma State. They gave up a ton of points. So I'm a little bit worried to see if Texas, who is coming off of that incredibly emotional, incredibly physical game against Texas Tech, can they carry their same defensive mindset into what is a tough game against Iowa State? This game it could be a rock fight, but you just never know because Iowa State does have a tendency to get hot. They just had that 84-point game against Oklahoma State. This is a pass for me, but I see your angle with the total though.
Yeah, I just look at this 122. I gotta go. I gotta go over. If
one team is hot from outside, you will hit this.
I have to go over. I'm looking at the first matchup, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen in this game, but Iowa State shot almost 57% from the floor. I mean, that's not going to happen again today, right? Like these are two defensive teams. But I just look at that, and I'm actually looking at their both seasons, and both of them have had games with the total closing at 121.5. Actually, the total now, it was 121.5 last night when we put it in the Google Doc, 122.5 now, so it's going up. So the market's moving the way that I think it's going to. But they've had games that have closed at 121.5 or lower, and all those games have gone over. So I'm just looking at this. I think if one team can get this
a lot in recent times when they've played good offensive teams, and I would consider Texas to have a little giddy up on offense. They've got guys who can knock down shots.
Here's the thing, though, and also in a game to make an argument for the side. Again, I'm playing the over. Like the side's not my thing, but you can make an argument for Iowa State catching 8 points with the total that low. Points are valuable.
I agree. That is a very good way to look at it, especially because Ken Palm's got it as a 6-point game. And again, Texas coming off of that win or that loss to Texas Tech, that was a grueling game. And we'll get to it a little later when we talk about Texas Tech's matchup today. Those games linger. That game took place on Tuesday, so they've had a few days off. It's not like it's a Thursday to Saturday game. That would have made it if that was a Thursday game and they played again Saturday, then I would have been more inclined to take Iowa State plus 8.5. But they've had 4 days, full 4 days off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, now Saturday being game day. So I'm a little more inclined to say Texas can put some distance between themselves and Iowa State. But yeah, you can make a case for the dog in a low total game like that, no doubt.
We got Roger in the chat saying too many points. We agree.
Yeah, I think if I was going to play that game, I think Iowa State would be the only way that I would lean.
Let's talk Kansas. Kansas hosting Baylor today.
Great game.
The Jayhawks laying 2.5 points. Total for that one, 144.5. What are your thoughts on that one? I think that's going to be probably the second best game today.
Absolutely. And Kansas has Texas in Austin on Monday. So again, we're in that part of the season now where we've had a consistent amount of time with no COVID breaks, with no, winter breaks for finals or any of that crap. It's been all January and now we're into February. So the grind of conference play, unlike non-conference play, where these guys go to the Paradise Jam in the Bahamas and they hang out on the beach for a few days and they play a couple games and they go home and they don't play for 2 weeks. It's twice a week. It's consistent. And in the Big 12, it is a grind. That is a meat grinder in that conference. So you've got a very tough look-ahead spot for Kansas.
This is a good Baylor team. Really good Baylor team.
Really good Baylor team. And Ojai Abaji maybe is coming back.
He's available. Hasn't practiced all week, but he's available.
So that's a very difficult spot to handicap too. And what have we seen with the players' first game back from COVID? They're a little bit I would probably lean Baylor to the over here. I think Kansas's defense is not going to be as buttoned up as it normally is. And again, I could see Kansas looking ahead just a little bit. Just a little bit. So I think that's where I would lean Baylor in the over, but no play for me officially. But I'm gonna be watching this game. This game's gonna be a fun game.
I think this is a no play for me as well. But I mean, we're talking a lot about the Kansas side. LJ Cryer and Adam Flagler, game time decisions for Baylor. I mean, those are
huge.
Two of Baylor's top scorers.
Huge.
You know, Cryer's been dealing with that foot injury, and you know, we got Adam dealing with the knee. So listen, they're dealing with some injuries as well, and some they might be missing some guys. So I think there's a lot of variance that could happen.
A lot of unknowns with this game. And listen, when you have a day, there's 150 freaking games today. If you have even and I know this game on paper looks great, but if you have even the semblance, like just a little inkling of, I don't really know how this is going to play out because of the uncertainty, move on. There are other games on the board, even though this is a higher profile game. But I will be watching this game, no doubt. This could be a Big 12 championship preview, and this is also the defending champs playing one of the best teams in the country in Kansas. So should be a fun one. Kansas coming off that spanking note to Kentucky, so maybe
interesting note in the chat. I haven't checked this, but Roger commenting Baylor is not won at Kansas. Interesting.
That would surprise me.
That would surprise me too. I have not
looked. Baylor's had some really good years, and Kansas has been good, obviously, but Kansas has had some letdown years too.
All right.
Yeah, last year, Baylor won at home, and Kansas won at home. They split last year. I'm looking right now. You can move on. I'll look, but it looks like Kansas lost at home to Baylor in 2020.
Well, I just wanted to look at another comment we got from Steven here. Vandy LSU line opened. LSU laying 3.5, seeing 2.5 now. Case to be made for Vandy to keep it close. Going to be going to the game. So fighting my local bias. Let me tell you something. There's one team that is in my graveyard. There's one team that is in my graveyard, Jared, and it is LSU. I am not touching LSU for the rest of the year. I don't care. I don't trust Will Wade. This is a bigger discussion. What is it about LSU and frauds? Will Wade is a fraud. Brian Kelly's a fraud. What is it about LSU that they're just attracted to frauds?
So I saw this. There's a great site called Shot Quality. I would recommend everyone follow them. They posted the teams to fade in March based off of the quality of their shots. And it's, again, college basketball is fluky. Basketball itself, because of the volume of what takes place during the game, the volume of possessions, the totals are in the 150s, 160s, whereas in football, they're in the 40s. You know, Major League Baseball, they're 7 or 8, hockey 5. The volume makes a lot of variance occur, but LSU is like the worst good team in terms of quality of their shots. And those are the teams that you fade in March because those shots don't tend to fall in March. There's the tighter defense.
When they get in half-court offense, it's like they don't know how to play basketball.
They do not get good shots, and that makes them very difficult to bet on in tight games.
So to answer your question, I don't know how to answer your question.
I would take Vandy at home. I'm seeing movement 3.5 to 2.5.
Listen, Jerry.
Listen, if you're just at the game, who is it, Steven? Steven, if you're just at the game and you want to throw $20 down because you're there and you're having fun, throw it down on Vandy. Why not?
Do it. Jerry Stackhouse building a program down there.
Program
at Vandy. All right, let's talk this out. Duke at UNC. Coach K's final game in Chapel Hill. This is going to be the best game of the day. I mean,
Duke UNC. It's the best rivalry in college basketball
for obvious reasons. I mean, hold on. Before we get into the game, there's no chance Carolina gives Coach K a tribute, right? Like, there's no way that he gets the tribute.
I think they might.
I don't think so.
Well, here's the thing. The Yankees and the Red Sox, the Red Sox made a big deal for Jeter in his final game, and the Yankees made a big deal for Ortiz. If the Yankees and Red Sox can mend fences, there's hope for all of us out there that are feuding, right?
we can only hope. Okay, so Duke laying 3 points, totals 151.5. The way I'm looking at this, I'm playing the over in this game. I just see this being an over spot. If UNC is going to be in this game, because, I mean, Duke is more talented across the board. They're better across the board. I mean, I don't even need to get too deep into the analytics here. Duke just has dudes, right? Like, that's just
throw the analytics out the window.
Yeah, Duke has. I mean, yeah. First of all, this is Duke UNC. Stats don't matter. I see this game turning into, I don't want to say a track meet, but if UNC is going to stay in this game, they're going to have to hit down 3-point shots. They're not going to win inside in this game. They're just not. I don't think Duke is going to be as dominant as they have been against other opponents, especially in the ACC on the glass. But I just don't think that a recipe for success for UNC is going to be going inside on this Duke team. And UNC is one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the country.
Yeah.
So the over is the play for me in this one, because I think that UNC at home is going to have the juice. They're going to be able to knock down their shots. And they're weak on the defensive end. So I also think Duke's going to be able to get theirs as well. And I mean, we looked at 151. That's a big number. But guess what? We were on the over in that Toledo Ball State, not comparing. It was 155.5. And that was like this crazy number. And I think there were 96 points at halftime in that game. You know what I mean? So it's just like, sometimes you got to just trust your handicap, trust what you're seeing. And this game's going to go way over to me.
These games are usually played with a lot of tempo. Even if the numbers say Duke is not a high tempo team, North Carolina is. They're top 40 in tempo. Duke is not. They're 140th. They're a medium tempo team. But Duke's defensive numbers in this game, in my opinion, don't tell the story, because I think North Carolina is going to push the pace. And North Carolina's defense has been at times this year. Their last two games, 90-83. Granted, that was overtime against Louisville, and then they beat NC State 100-80. You don't need to have a math degree to know what the final total was in that game. So they've gone over their totals of late. Both teams coming in hot too. They've won 4 in a row. I think when you look at Duke, they're a little more inexperienced, and that tends to lead to lapses mentally, especially in a game like this, where if you do not keep your focus for 40 minutes, you will get burned. And these games, you throw the stats out the window, you throw those adjusted efficiency numbers on both sides out the window, even though the numbers do say that Duke should win this game, and it should stay under the total. I don't look at Ken Palms or any of those efficiency numbers for a game like this. I think this game is about heart and hustle, and I think you're going to see neither team quit, which means the over will never be dead.
Okay, looking at his side, though, Coach K's not losing at Chapel Hill, right, for the last time. Like, he can't, right? He just can't. Like, I think that what we've been waiting on from this Duke team, because this is a team that from the beginning of the season, I believe is one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented teams, top to bottom.
I think they have a chance to be in the Final Four if they can grow up a little bit over the next month.
But we've been waiting. We've been waiting for them to put it all together, right? They haven't. They've looked shaky at times. I think
the one that I
think they're one of those teams that plays down to the competition. If they know they don't have to get up for a game, they're going to do just enough.
That's not the case today.
That is not the case. So I could see this being the game that they put it all together.
Sure.
Coach, I mean, do I want to lay the 3 points? I might end up laying the 3 points too. But my play
go money line. Go money line with the over parlay. Maybe buy a point or two on the over, get it back down to 1. I have seen the over drop.
We can't parlay college basketball in Maryland.
Really? They don't let you parlay college basketball same game? Oh, we got to get on that.
Don't get me started on things I found out that we can't do in Maryland, like parlay college basketball.
And they don't let you do that at Maryland Live. They let you do that on FanDuel Live, right?
Well, Maryland Live is FanDuel.
They don't let you.
Maryland Live is FanDuel. And the other thing I noticed when this is a whole different discussion we're about to get into too. But with the NBA, there are
wow, you're right. You can't say college basketball
to get a triple double. There's no to get a double double in Maryland. I need to do some digging. Like, why can't I bet on double doubles in Maryland?
Juicy too.
I mean,
see a lot of people on those a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
right, so on Bet365, you can parlay same game parlay college basketball. So
we don't have Bet365 here. Oh,
Bet365 for the Jersey peeps. I recommend if you're not on it. So first of all, if you go to Pickswise.com, we have like a list of like all the books and what's available and bonuses and all that fun stuff. But if you were going to ask me like how to handicap the sports books, so we handicap games, we can handicap sports books too. I think Bet365 is like my favorite one.
Mm.
Sorry to, if that's going to piss off any sponsors, but they give me like the most options. It's a really good book. So go to Bet365. You can same game parlay college hoops.
To clarify, can parlay college hoops, cannot same game parlay college hoops.
So no, you can. I'm doing it right now. I'm looking. So here you go.
No, I'm saying I couldn't at FanDuel.
Exactly.
So they're gonna make me drive. And I got to drive into the city.
Come hang out, watch the games today.
I gotta go to DraftKings or something. I think it's the DraftKings book that's down at the Horseshoe. I don't even know.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Right, what we got?
So total points, we're gonna go over 149 because that's where the line opened, and then Duke money line is plus 186 for a same game parlay.
I like that.
It's almost 2-1. And you're buying a couple extra points. I wouldn't recommend buying points if you're going to bet the over straight up. But if you're putting it in a parlay, I think you protect from that half point or a point, weird situation at the end of the game where he misses the free throw and screws you over. So that's more of a recommendation. But yeah, 2-1, that's not a bad parlay. Duke in the over. If Duke takes care of business.
I want to talk about one more game before we move on to your kick picks, because I think this is another big one in the Big Ten here. We got Kofi Cockburn versus Trace Jackson Davis today. Illinois at Indiana. Do you have a play for that game? That is going to be one that I'm locked into these college basketball games today. That's going to be a great one. Indiana, I believe, is laying 2 points last time I checked.
Very surprising line here, to be perfectly honest with you.
Indiana at home. This
feels trappish. So I just saw it move back. So this line has been on kind of a roller coaster. So I did a segment last night with a couple of college basketball buddies on VSiN late night, and we were looking at this Illinois-Indiana game. Open -1, then Indiana became the favorite, and I was like, well, that's a little bit curious because Curbelo is out of health and safety protocols. He practiced this week. We'll see if he plays. Coburn's been playing unbelievable, out of his mind. He had a great game the other night. So I was kind of looking at this game like, well, they just beat Wisconsin. Why is Indiana getting all this love? Letdown spot. They play Purdue Tuesday on the road. Okay, you can make a case for the sandwich game at Purdue Tuesday, coming off the win against Wisconsin. Indiana at home's been better. Some decent home wins. They beat Purdue at home. They beat Ohio State at home.
That Michigan loss is bad, though.
The Michigan loss is troubling. I kind of am with you on Illinois here, but the line.
Oh, no. I'm not with Illinois.
You're on Indiana?
I think it's Indiana or pass. I think I'm on Indiana.
I think it's a trap. I think Illinois. Like if you were going to ask me on a neutral court, Illinois or Indiana, with Illinois at full strength, Coburn and Curbelo.
Here's the thing: which Indiana team shows? I'm going to pass on this game.
They play better.
Which Indiana team shows up today, though? Which Indiana team shows up? That's what I want to know.
No idea.
Because you just don't know. You don't know. When they beat Purdue, they were shooting the lights out.
They were,
and
they almost blew that game too. They almost blew that game. They actually kind of did, and then they didn't. Like that game, they didn't really show, and they were dogs in that game. They were 3-4 point dogs in that game. This is a pick'em. They have to win this game in order for you to cover. So I kind of think Illinois is the better team. I think Illinois is the tougher team. And I think if they're at full strength with Curbelo and Coburn, I think they win this game. I don't know if they're going to be.
If I remember correctly,
just coming out of health and safety protocols, hasn't played in a couple weeks, a week or so. He hasn't played since. Well, he did play 12 minutes against Wisconsin, which is weird. Why did he play 12 minutes against Wisconsin and sit? Maybe he was getting his lungs back. So maybe this game is his bounce back. Like maybe now he's fully back, and Curbelo's ready to roll. That's why I think Illinois is getting a little love this morning on the line.
This is okay. This is my last note on this game. Because if I remember correctly, Rob Finney was the guy that had the big game against Purdue. One of their bench players just came off and just was knocking down all kinds of threes. So you just don't know what's gonna happen in this with this Indiana team. I mean, what you do know, Trace Jackson Davis is gonna show up. Like that's not a question. But Jared, you got two other college basketball plays before we.
Yeah, let's throw these dumpster dive games. Actually, to be fair, the Gonzaga game is not really a dumpster dive game, but the first game is over in Buffalo and CMU. You know I love my Maction total. So CMU actually was one of the worst teams, I think, in college basketball for a while. Then they had a break, a COVID break. They came back and they're playing better, 3 straight wins, and they're averaging 70 points per game during that stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always their offense that struggled. Their defense has been brutal, but their offense was the reason why I haven't been betting their overs lately, because they haven't been scoring enough. They give up a ton of points because their defense is 331st in defensive efficiency, but their offense was what was struggling. Now their offense is playing better, and they're facing a Buffalo team today that just loves to run, top 40 in tempo. This is a fast-moving Buffalo offense. So I think this is going to be a high-tempo game. I got 149.5. I actually haven't checked where the line moved this morning. I saw it was moving up last night. Yeah, it's moved up to 152. I see some 151s out there. I think you can play it there and feel comfortable. So we're going over. I got it 149.5, Buffalo CMU. And then this is we haven't talked about this game, number 2 team in the country, Gonzaga. So to me, this game I think is a little bit of an overreaction. And I think the public is going to look at what Gonzaga just did at San Diego the other night, 30-point win, and feel comfortable laying a big number on the road. But this is a BYU team, especially in Provo, that can be very feisty. And they're coming off of 3 straight losses. Like, this is like the season for BYU. Their season's kind of taken a turn. Their tournament hopes are dwindling a little bit. They're still a very good team. They've got some really good wins on their resume this year, but they've lost 3 in a row. And this is one of those line in the sand games where I think we're getting probably a 2 or 3 point discount on BYU as a home dog. This line, according to Ken Pom, should be 10, and it's 13.5. I think BYU's worth the play at home. Big home dog. I don't like fading Gonzaga. It's not going to be comfortable, especially because they just dropped 110 on them a few weeks ago. But I think 13.5 is a number I'm willing to buy BYU here.
All right. Let's move on to some kick picks here. And I'm going to let you give out your picks as long as you promise not to talk about Man U. We're not talking about Man U.
They're playing right now, actually.
We're not talking. We're not talking about Man U.
Oh no, they played yesterday.
Yeah. We're not talking about Man U.
That's fair. I'm not. I'm talking about Burnley and Watford. Match starts at 1:00 Eastern. We're going with the under 2.5. So Burnley is without their starting midfielder. And again, if you follow the EPL, the strikers obviously matter more because they score the goals, but it's the midfielders that really churn out possession. And without Burnley's best midfielder, I think Josh Brownhill is on a yellow card suspension. They're going to struggle a little bit to find continuity today. Now, the one thing they do have going for them, I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, but he's probably one of my favorite players in now EPL, used to be in the Bundesliga. Wout Weghorst. He's a striker, came over from Wolfsburg. He had 20 goals last year, one of the best strikers in the Bundesliga, on transfer now to Burnley. And Burnley kind of is an offensive, peasant at times. They don't really generate a ton of offense, but they're getting Weghorst into the mix. I think that will help their offense eventually, but this is his first game. And again, they're without Brownhill, their best midfielder. So I think getting Weghorst touches in the box might be a bit of an issue. This is also the first match for Watford's new manager, Roy Hodgson. So Watford fired their manager. Neither of these teams have played in 3 weeks. There's been an international break in soccer. Watford, after their last match, they lost 3-0 to Norwich, who's like the worst team in the EPL. They fired their manager, and they hired Roy Hodgson. You might remember that name. He used to coach the English national team. He also coached the Crystal Palace. And I think it's going to be a bit of a adjustment period for him as well. I see a really tight game here. 1-0 either side. Maybe Weghorst gets on the score sheet and Burnley wins 1-0. But under 2.5 at minus 135, I thought was a pretty fair price here. So that's where we're playing. Burnley and Watford, a little afternoon across the pond action. Afternoon here, evening there. But we're going with the under in that match.
All right. Love that. All right, let's move on to our plays of the day and then get out of here. We got a 3-star play on the site you want to give out?
There was a couple that I was looking at. Let me look again here. Wake Forest +3 against Florida State. This is a fascinating game. My buddy Lock Mamba, who I love his name. Lock Mamba does like Wake Forest today. Go check that one out. And Matt Matt Weisenfeld, also known as Wise Guy. The Wise Guy likes Duke today, laying 3. So little reinforcement there.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah, that makes you feel good about Dukies, right? So we'll look at Duke and we'll look at Wake. ACC action. And actually, there's a couple more picks on the site, too. Nick Galeta's got an NBA prop or an NBA total. And Sam Avallone's got another ACC. A lot of ACC action on the Pickswise site today. So go check that out.
All right, what's your play? What's your 3-star play for today?
I'm going Georgia State. We've talked about this Georgia State team.
The Panthers, disappointing this season.
They have, but I'm kind of buying the bottom here. So they're taking So they're playing South Alabama at home. I'm laying 2.5, and I'll be honest, it cannot get any worse for Georgia State. They were 6 of 22 from 3, and how about this number? 15 of 27 from the free throw line. I'm pretty sure you and I could shoot better from the free throw line. That was in their loss to Troy the other night. And the analytics say Georgia State should have won that game by double digits. And they could not hit water if they fell off a boat. That's how, rock bottom it's been for this Panthers team. And they're a team that coming into the season were picked first in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
They have 3 returning starters that are seniors in their top 5. There will be a time where Georgia State starts to play better. Their record should have 5 more wins based off of what their metrics are compared to some of their unlucky statistics. Again, missing a lot of shots, missing a lot of threes. And I think this Jaguars team was 15-4. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They were 15-5. They've lost 2 in a row. And this is their 3rd straight road game. Little road weary for South Al today. I'm taking Georgia State laying a short number at home, 2.5. I would probably stop at 3. 1 possession is probably all I'm comfortable laying with Georgia State because they just need to get the monkey off their back right now and get a win. But I think eventually they're going to start playing better because they're a talented, experienced team. They're well coached. And I'm buying the bottom with Georgia State today.
Yeah, Rob Lanier's a good coach. He's definitely not going to let his guys lay down. That's for sure. I'm going back to a play I gave out earlier. Mikal Bridges, over 14.5 points, averaging over 23 points in the last 4 games. Has played 40 or more minutes in each of the past 5 games, becoming a reliable option as teams pay more and more attention to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So I think that number is really low. 14.
I like it. I'm telling you on this one.
Yeah, listen. I'm doing the same game parlay with with Crowder with the rebound. So listen, we get 3-1.
Not bad.
I like that. All right. Well, that will do it for us here today. Are we talking Pro Bowl tomorrow? Are we going to talk Pro Bowl? We're not talking.
I'm not capping the Pro Bowl.
We're not talking Pro Bowl tomorrow.
I'm not capping. I refuse to cap.
Well, yeah. Let's put this out there right now, Justin. We are not talking Pro Bowl.
We can talk about it. I'll tell you where the line's moving, but I am not spending 1 ounce of effort handicapping it because if you really think you know what these guys are doing based off of stats or trends or
none of my hard-earned money will be going into the Pro Bowl.
Probably at the craps table right now out to Bellagio.
They're enjoying Vegas, that's for sure. But hopefully maybe we'll do a little Super Bowl preview.
That makes more sense.
I think we're going to talk. Yeah, listen, but we're going to be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. So make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel so you don't miss out when we get back. And hopefully we can give out some winners again tomorrow. Good luck with your picks.